So, hello, sir. Welcome to Psych Space once again. So,
Good evening.
yeah. So, I think I think we'll have to wait for around 2 minutes for people to join. So, by then we can
Sure.
start at least. Okay, then we are good to start. At least three people are there. So, welcome everyone to Site Space. So, definitely, Sir is here, our speaker. Uh, Basically, this is a continuation of our previous Instagram live that we had for Coping 101 for understanding the importance of coping mechanism and the coping skills as well. So, as per the feedback, we have received a good feedback. That's why we have thought about and we have taken the decision of continuing the previous session with this session. And we are glad to inform you that this session is basically about coping 101, which is understanding and knowing, managing your thoughts and emotions. So I hope it will be fruitful to you. You can understand a lot of knowledge from Sir as well. So, sir, welcome you. Site Space welcomes you. So, let me first introduce Sir. So, Divyang Sharma is a licensed clinical psychologist with 3 years of experience. He worked as senior research assistant and clinical psychologist for Indian Institute of Aerospace Medicine under specialized services for ISRO and Human Space Flight Commission, where he was also involved in the Gaganyaan program. He was also training the first Indian astronauts in psychological skills necessary for space flight. He worked as guest lecturer for Indraprastha College for Women and consultant clinical psychologist at Ashoka Hospital. So, sir, we are grateful to have you over here. And let me introduce myself as well. I'm Lisa Chaudhary, and I'm a psychologist at SiteSpace. So, so as we begin with the session, definitely that with the previous, this is a continuation of the previous session. So, the session of today is basically focusing on managing your thoughts and emotions. As we know that many people have a confusion regarding, like the difference between what is the difference between the thought and emotion actually. So, basically, can you explain it what it is?
Sure. So, first of all, let me just start by thanking Space for having me back again. And it's a real pleasure meeting you once again, Liza.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, we are continuing our conversation on coping strategies. And today we will be talking about thoughts and emotions and how we can manage them. So before we move on, let me just quickly, recap what we did the last time. We talked about what coping strategies are, why they are important, how they are important, and we talked about the different types of coping as well. We talked about what are the adaptive types of coping and the maladaptive type of coping. And we talked about how, there are these two different types of coping called problem focused and emotion focused coping. And today's lecture is going to be a continuation on that. And when we talk about emotion focused coping, I can, completely understand why people will have this question, okay, what is thought and what is emotion? So for everyone here, I would like to clear this thing up. So both thoughts and emotions are two distinct processes, but they are also intertwined. Okay, so when we are talking about thoughts, we are talking about cognitive processes like planning, remembering, thinking about various topics and things. So anything that happens in our mind, we refer to them as thoughts. Okay, imagination, etc. And emotions are our subjective feelings that we experience in different circumstances. So if we receive good news, if we and we feel positive, we feel happy, joyful, all of these are emotions. Okay, so anything that happens in our mind, we refer them as thoughts, and our subjective feelings in a particular situation, we refer them as emotions. Okay, so while both of these things, as I mentioned, are separate experiences, they can influence one another. So this is a very common understanding that we have in psychology, that your thoughts do have a very significant effect on your emotions. So if you're in a situation and you have positive thoughts, you're bound to feel more positive emotions. But this relationship is not one directional, it is bidirectional, which means just like how your thoughts affect your emotions can also affect your thoughts. So in any particular situation, if you're feeling, if you're feeling joy or happiness, or if you're feeling any negative emotion like sadness or anger, these will also have an effect on your emotions. They will either lead to you having more negative emotions, or they will intensify the already negative emotions that like the thoughts that you're having. Okay, so that is the sort of relationship there is between thoughts and emotions. They both are separate but have an effect on one another, and I hope that answers the question.
Yeah. So like, can we say that emotions are reflex actions or non-reflex reactions, or just can we name it as both?
So we can actually name it as both, because as I mentioned, these, when we talk about emotions, they are usually dependent on what kind of situation you're in. So when we talk about reflex actions, we are talking about automatic and sometimes instantaneous or instinctual, emotions that we experience. Okay, so just like imagine if you go outside and you see a huge lion standing in front of you, you won't really have to think about it that, oh my God, this lion might attack me. You will immediately want to run away, right? You will immediately feel fear. And that is an instinctual or reflexive or a reflex emotion that we term as. Okay, so there are situations where emotions are quite automatic and mimic reflexive actions as well. And then there are situations where our emotions are dependent on our past experiences, our thought processes, which is where emotions act like non, reflexive reactions, where our emotions are dependent on what kind of thoughts we are having and what kind of experiences we have had in the past. So if like suppose your teacher calls you up in front of a class, if in the past you've had really good experiences where your teacher has called you up in front of the class and said good words about you, you might feel excited. But if you know that in the past test that I've given, I did not perform very well, so you're already expecting that maybe I might be scolded here, or what if I scored so badly that the teacher wants to make an example of me in front of everyone, right? So in that situation, your emotions are a byproduct of the thoughts you're having in that particular moment or the past experiences you've had. So your emotions can be both, as can be seen as both a reflexive action and a non-reflexive reaction.
Great. So, like, does that mean that we can define thoughts as the bridge between our feelings and emotions?
Sure, sure. We can say that. We can definitely say that, our thoughts do serve as a bridge between our emotions and our feelings. So, as I mentioned, our thoughts have a huge power and huge effect on our emotions. So, whenever and it's I think it's very important for our audience to understand this thing as well, that when we are talking about emotions and feelings, there is also a little bit of a difference, right? So when we are talking about our emotions, these are the kind of when we are feeling sad or angry or happy in a particular situation. And when we talk about emotions, they are quite universal. So and when we are talking about feelings, these are subjective experience of that emotion. Okay, so suppose you get both of us are giving an exam and both of us do not score very well or we score very well. Okay, so dependent on the importance we have given to the exam, if we have not scored very well, and suppose for you the exam was very important and for me the exam was not very important, both of us will feel sad. But that feeling of sadness, that subjective feeling of sadness, will be much more intense for you, because for you the exam was much more important. Okay, emotion is the same, but the feeling of that emotion is different. Okay, and just like that, if we had scored well, just like how you had felt more intense sadness, you will feel more intense happiness, because your that exam was more important for you. So emotions and feelings are definitely similar, but there is a slight difference. So I hope everyone understands this. And when we are talking about thoughts being the bridge between emotions and feelings, just like I gave the example, if you think a particular situation is more important for you, suddenly that emotion translates into a more intense feeling. So your thoughts about a particular situation, how important it is for you, or what kind of significance it has for you, they will definitely have an effect on what your feelings are in that particular situation. So that's how we can see thoughts as a bridge between our emotions and our feelings.
So you have explained it really easily and really nicely, definitely, seriously. So just taking a few minutes, I want to just announce that we are also taking some questions. If viewers have any questions, he or she needs to ask our speaker, they want to get the answers, then they can please comment on the box. Definitely, their questions will be answered. So if you have any questions, then please give the questions as well. So sir, we have some DM question. So
Yeah,
in between, we can take up that as well. So like
absolutely.
as our topic is related to managing our thoughts and emotions, so how to deal with our difficult emotions?
Right. So, dealing with our difficult emotions, as I mentioned, we first have to understand the relationship between our thoughts and emotions as well, which I hope it is clear to everyone now that how both of these things affect one another. So, the best way to deal with, difficult emotions is first and foremost recognize and identify those emotions. Okay, it is very important to recognize what emotion am I feeling in this situation, because you will be surprised at how many people are not able to answer this question in difficult situations about what exactly am I feeling. Am I feeling angry? Am I feeling sad? Am I feeling irritated? Am I feeling frustrated? What am I feeling exactly? Okay, so it is very important that you first of all identify what emotion you're feeling and then recognize that emotion as a normal human experience. Okay, everyone around us experiences difficult emotions, everyone around us experiences negative emotions. So the first thing is to accept that yes, I am right now in a situation where I'm feeling this particular emotion and it is normal to feel this way. There's nothing wrong in that. Once you acknowledge that, then a really good technique that you can utilize is mindfulness. It will definitely help you uh, you know decrease the intensity of the emotion that you're feeling. So given in simple terms, and not taking a lot of time, mindfulness is basically trying to pay attention to your present moment. Okay. There are other elements to mindfulness as well, but for this discussion, let's just focus on being present in the moment. So when you're paying attention, your complete attention to what you're doing, or maybe your physical sensations, that helps you calm down that intense, difficult emotion that you're feeling. So that is how you can reduce the intensity of that difficult emotion. After that, a very good thing that you can do is find a way to express that emotion. If you have someone you can talk to, please go ahead and talk to them. It could be a family member, it could be a friend, it could be a relative, or it could be a professional that you're talking to. So find a way to express your emotions either by talking or by journaling, or maybe finding a creative way to express emotions. So people might be aware about art therapy and therapies like dance movement therapy, which are mostly about expressing your emotions in different ways, in creative ways. So finding this outlet is also very important. You will feel, as soon as you express your emotions, your difficult emotion, you will feel a sudden decrease in the intensity of that emotion. You will feel better, you will feel lighter, and that is why expressing your emotion is also very important. And finally, what you can do is practice self-care. Okay, so I think this has been a theme in psych space as well. I think for Women's Day, practicing self care was also talked about. So practicing self care is very, very important. So do not wait for a time where you're feeling difficult emotions, or you're feeling stressed, or you're feeling negative emotions to practice self care. Make it a part of your daily routine. Take time to engage in activities that you enjoy. Take time to engage in mindfulness or meditation, or engaging in physical exercises. So practice self-care on a regular basis, so when you're actually having those difficult emotions, it will be easier for you to practice these things because you're already used to it. Okay, so I think these four steps can be very beneficial. And again, at any point of time, if anyone feels that their negative emotions or difficult emotions are becoming too much for them to handle, always try to seek professional help, and it will have a lot of benefits.
Definitely, sir. Yes, seeking professional help is one of the main thing that people needs to take care of themselves with self-care routine and the activities that you have listed out. So, sir, there is one more question. What comes first, like our thoughts, feelings, or emotions?
That is a very interesting question. When it comes to thoughts, emotions, and feelings, as I mentioned, it is a very complex relationship. Okay, but there is a general understanding in the psychological community that our thoughts a lot of times do precede the emotion that we are feeling. Okay, so a lot of times the kind of thoughts that we have uh, lead to the emotions, or lead to what kind of emotions we will feel in that particular situation. But as I mentioned, it is, most of the time it might be true, but it is not true all the time. We know that there are certain thoughts that trigger certain emotions, and just like that, there are certain emotions that trigger certain kinds of thoughts. So in situations where the emotion is, as we talked about, a reflexive action, emotion will obviously precede, and your emotion will dictate what kind of thoughts you experience. But in situations where it is a non-reflexive reaction, which is where your thoughts are being preceded by your emotions. Okay, or your thoughts are preceding your emotions. But as I mentioned, the relationship is quite complex and not as simple. So saying something like your thought predicts your emotion is also it's partly true, because there are a lot of other elements that do have an effect on your emotions. So it is a part of a bigger picture, a very important part, but not the complete picture. So things like your past experiences, your your instincts in a particular situation, um, your beliefs, your values, um, experiences that people around you have had in similar situations. All of these things have an effect on the emotions and the feelings you have in a particular situation. Thought is just one of the part of of the process, but definitely a very important part of it.
Thank you, sir. I think, yes, there is one question. I think it's quite not related with our topic, but it's basically Bhanita Das has said that how to overcome with ADHD.
All right. So I'm assuming like either you or someone you know is going through or experiencing ADHD. So first of all, I would recommend that you do visit a professional, a clinical psychologist, to have like a diagnosis for ADHD, because we know that this term has become really popular nowadays. It has been used to describe things like, oh, I'm not able to pay attention for a longer period of time, so I might have ADHD. Or I sometimes do things without thinking about them, so I might have ADHD. So there are very specific criteria for ADHD. So to have a proper diagnosis, you should definitely go to a professional. And once that diagnosis is made, there are a lot of different ways of dealing with ADHD. It is usually a combination of pharmacology and psychotherapy. So medicines and psychotherapy are used simultaneously. Um, there are behavioral interventions for parents. If the child has ADHD, then the parents are actually included in the part of therapy as co-therapists. How to teach the child to pay more attention, how to make activities more interesting for a child. All of these things can be worked on along with medications that help the child feel more calm. Unfortunately, in today's discussion, I cannot go in a lot of details about ADHD. We can actually, if we want to discuss about ADHD, we can have a hour long or a 2 hour long discussion. But my suggestion for you would be to seek professional help, because every individual is different. Okay, every individual with ADHD is different. Every individual's environment with ADHD is different. So there is no hard and fast rule. Okay, this is what you have to do, and you will be able to manage ADHD. There are a lot of different things we can do, but what's the best combination of those things for you or whoever it is that who has ADHD will be dependent on a detailed understanding of the client and their environment. So that is, I think, the best way to move forward.
Yes, I hope Bhanita Das has got her answer even in a precise way. I hope it will be helpful for
Yeah, I know
her to.
it's not like I
Yeah,
know that is not what she was expecting. I'm sure she was expecting like specific techniques, but there are a lot of techniques to be used, Panita. But it's just a matter of having more information. I right now cannot, with a good sound mind, give you information when I don't have any information, right? I cannot give you techniques, and I hope that you understand and you're able to apply them. So that is why I want you to talk to a professional, whoever is nearby, maybe in your area, or you can definitely opt for an online session. So there are services, Psych Space is also offering these services. So you can definitely talk to a professional, and that will be a much more help to you than me giving you certain techniques without fully knowing your situation in just 5 minutes. I will not be doing a proper service to you or to my profession if I do these things. Okay, so that is why I'm just trying to encourage you to have a detailed conversation with a professional.
Yes, so I guess we are into this topic discussion of this managing our thoughts and emotions of our today's session. I guess we'll be continuing with more live sessions and more informative one as our today's session as our last session as well. It has been really informative. You have spoken really well. You have explained really well. I hope our viewers have understood very easily. So definitely, Sitespace want to thank you for your efforts, and we'll plan for another live session as well in another upcoming weeks as well. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure connecting with PsychSpace once again. And, I also look forward to more such engagements.
So I guess we will end the live over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir.
And thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Liza, for,
Yeah,
organizing this thing and, monitoring this thing as well. And I hope to see more people and the same people join us again the next time.
yeah, sure, sir. Thank you.
Have a good evening, everyone.